Hi everyone, and welcome to part 2 of my mini rant about the BBC's Watership Down. Bear with me. Okay. So, like on my first little rant, I'm actually going to draw a real rabbit while we're doing this. Well, it has to be done. So, the BBC put on the second part yesterday, and I got to watch it. Once again, I spent most of the time screaming at the TV. And once again, the programme was nout like the book. It's clear. So, the main thing that I noticed was, this is going to sound really weird from a female, is it was as if the film had been made by feminists. And I know this is a bit of an outrageous claim, but don't shoot the messenger yet. Basically, the changes that they made it that the main characters were no longer the main characters, but the female characters were the main characters. So, in the original book, the story is about a group of male rabbits whose warren gets destroyed, they find a new home, they go through many adventures, and they try and find mates, and there's a battle and all that stuff. But in the BBC's adaptation, they've put the females into roles that don't actually exist in the book itself. So, for example, in the BBC's version, Clover, the hutch rabbit, has this huge role where she goes and finds Hazel after he's been shot, not Fibre and Blackberry. I think it's Blackberry, wasn't it? So that was a huge difference. And then there's this really freaky scene in the BBC's adaptation where Highs and Flayers, like this lead protagonist, kind of leader of all of them, and it's, I don't know, it was just it was cringy, seriously cringe-worthy to watch, to the point that actually it was embarrassing to watch. And there was something really weird. Now, this is why I think the whole production was done really seriously cheaply. Was basically, when you read the book and you read about Ephrata and the size of it, it was a big warren. So you're talking maybe 60 plus rabbits. And Bigwig got away with over 15. Okay, that was one mark, had 15. And there would have been more than 5 marks. So I'll let you guys do the maths. But in the BBC's production, there's like 8 does, if that. So it was almost as if they ran out of money to animate any more characters. And that really did let it down. Also, what kept on getting me was that there was this constant referral to a character who is only mentioned in the book and doesn't actually have any relation to the story that much, and that's Captain Orcus. In the book, this character is mentioned when Woundwort wants advice from, I think it was Ragwort, about how to get into the burrows where the hero rabbits are. In the BBC adaptation, Orcus's brother, who is never mentioned, is this super hyper aggressive stupid chap who's always after revenge. And in the second part, they missed out so much. I mean, it really does show what a rushed project this was from the BBC. So if you've read the book, and spoiler alert, if you've read the book, then you'll remember there's a scene about River, and it's one of the key pivotal parts of how the rabbits get the does out of Ephrata. And they find a reed cutting boat and they manage to gnaw through the rope, and off it goes, off down the little river. And the river is only a trickle of a river, it's not like a great rushing thing like parts of the Thames. I can't think if it was Tamar or no, I can't remember which name it was. But in the BBC's production, they completely over it. Literally, bing, gone. Never happened. Never even knew about it. The rabbits in the BBC production go to a town, and there's a river next to the town, and they go in the road and they look at the cars, and it's all really stupid. And it's very choppy, is how I would describe it. So during the breakout part, there's a scene in the BBC's adaptation where Bigwig and Woundwort squared up under the bridge, and it looks like a fight. Keehaw comes in, squeaks a bit, flies off, and then suddenly it cuts straight to the river area, and everybody's hiding down a bank. And this is something I noticed with the whole programme, that it kind of went from one scene and zoom, straight off the marker to another one. Really choppy, very difficult to stitch it all together. And again, made for very weird watching. As for the end scene, by this time I was still screaming my head off at the TV. Again, there was a hell of a lot of this stupidity with Clover and Heisenfly. Kind of, I don't know, it was just, I say, embarrassing to watch, and that's from a female. At the end scene, in the book, it describes the Hazel's rabbits blocked up all of their holes, so the Effersons had to dig them out. In the BBC's adaptation, the Effersons charge across the field and straight down the holes, and there's a whopping great big fight. Now, in the book, no rabbit from Hazel's group are killed, which is great. Yeah, there's scratches and whatnot, but in the BBC's adaptation, there's Holly, and they're going ding, 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 whack, whack, smack, smack, and then one of them goes smack, and Holly's dead. And there's all this kind of, oh, boo-hoo, cry, wah. What doesn't help, though, is once again, where I mentioned the music, it's got nothing, the music doesn't change tempo, really, at all. It's the same flat thing. And where some of the music built up to like a climax where you're expecting like the big ending, it's in the wrong places. It was in the middle of scenes instead of like at the end of the film. So if you were just listening to the music, you would have thought the film was ended like at the beginning, which is very confusing. So that confused the living socks off of me. So Holly gets killed in the BBC's adaptation, and the fight with Woundwort is laughable, because there's one of, you know, when people say about looking at film and spotting how many mistakes you can spot. Well, the rabbit's all doing this wacky, 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 and then Woundwort comes out the burrow, and he hasn't got a scratch to him. A lot of the lines that were included in the book, and even in the original film, the old cartoon one, a lot of those were cut, and in fact a lot of the big ones were given to different characters. So it was, again, the female characters, it was that line about there's one or two from Ephrafa who'll come with me. Yeah, if I'm for the Black Rabbit of Inlay, there's one or two from Ephrafa coming with me. And I think that one was spoken in the BBC's adaptation by Heisenfly or Clover. But in the original film, that was Bigwig's line. So, like I say, it was just an absolute mishmash and confusing. But the fact that they didn't even include the river scene, and the Keehaw character, oh my god, what a jerk. Scottish accent, no offence to Scots, I love the Scottish accent. It's quite beautiful. Got a good pace to it as well. But I don't know if the person who was voicing Keehaw was Scottish, or if they were trying to be Scottish. The accent was very forced and, again, very stereotypical. So it wasn't a comfortable piece of voice acting. I mean, overall, oh my god, yeah, the dog scene. this has made me laugh. So the Rottweiler in the BBC's adaptation. Actually, this one's a confusing one. Right. In the book, Hazel takes, I think it's Blackberry and Dandelion with him to go back to the farm to get the farm dog. In the book, this is Bob the Labrador. Now, in the BBC's adaptation, he takes Blackavar and Fiver. And it's Fiver's job to chew the rope, not Hazel's, which is what happens in the book. And in the book, Hazel's on top of the hutch, the dog kennel. He nibbles a rope and sees a cat and stamps his foot, and that wakes the dog up, which sees Blackberry opposite and pulls and goes. And then Hazel is thrown off of the kennel, and as he tries to get up, a cat pounces on him and says, "Can you run? I think not." My God, I've read this book too much, haven't I? But in the BBC's adaptation, Fiver is chewing the rope and the cat pounces on him, and Hazel's kind of torn, "Oh, I must go back and rescue my brother," and the Rottweilers go roar, 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 as they do. It's just putting Rottweilers in a really bad light. They are a lovely dog. If trained right, they are really, really good. In fact, they're actually originally herding dogs. They're very loyal. I used to know some absolute beauts. But then Hazel runs off, the dog follows, and cutscene. So you don't see Lucy, the daughter of the farmer, come along and scare is it Tabs or something, the cat, away, and then rescue what should have been Hazel, and then go to the doctor and say, "Oh, look, I found a rabbit, what should we do?" And then the doctor drives her off, and what happens in the book. None of that's included. And it's in the BBC adaptation, it's Fiver who rides in the car, which makes no sense, because when they show Fiver being dropped off by the car and he goes back to the warren, it's like nobody bothered to go and see if he'd survived or anything. They were just like, "Oh my God, he's alive." It was a bit, again, it didn't match into the storyline. It was like he'd been completely and utterly forgotten. But of course, the rabbits run off back to the coppice and the beach hanger, and they get there, and in the BBC's adaptation, a Rottweiler keeps his head down a hole for quite a while before seeing the other rabbits and attacking them. In the book, the rabbits are literally charged into by the dog, and it just grabs anything and starts tearing them to pieces. And it gets one of the rabbits which was injured, and it hunts down rabbits. But then the BBC's adaptation has this piece where Woundwort has this massive speech about that he is a predator, that he fears nothing, and all of this stuff, and then attacks the dog. But the legs on the rabbit's Woundwort character, as it flies at the dog, it's like Superman. So Woundwort's legs are literally so his body is, and the back goes, but the legs go really out. It's really rough, but I think you'll get the idea. So that's kind of the pose that they stick. But the characters are like 10 metres away from each other, so it's like Super Rabbit. And it looks absolutely stupid. And then again, the scene drops completely down to the grass. There's no sound effects, there's nothing, it's just kind of drop down to grass, then back up. And there's a lot of this, I mean, I don't know why they said it was offensive for children, because I don't feel that there was actually anything offensive to watch. You didn't see Woundwort fight the dog. You didn't really see the dog kill any of the rabbits. All the fighting was just little slapping movements. There wasn't really any threat in the whole thing. Even Bigwig's snare scene in the first one that they showed, it wasn't that scary. I mean, the original, blimey, how many people in the UK have been traumatised by that original one? That was decent. So that was just a really derpy ending. And thinking about that, you know, if you've seen my first video, you will have heard me reference about Woundwart's backstory. They touched on it in the worst possible way. So a quick recap. Basically, General Woundwort, when he was a kitten, his dad raided gardens and got shot, and his mother, who was in the burrow, got dug out by the gardener. She got shot, but managed to survive, and all the kittens tried to follow her. She ran for her life, and all of them, Woundwort was the only one who actually survived, and that's how the book puts it. But he watched his mother killed by a weasel, or a stoat, I think it was a weasel, and was found by a schoolmaster nuzzling against her body and crying. And the schoolmaster took him home and rehabilitated him, fed him well, and eventually Woundwort broke free. But in the BBC's adaptation, Woundwort was a sentry for his warren when they were raiding a garden, and a fox comes out of nowhere. Woundwort's petrified and doesn't give the alarm, and then the fox goes berserk and kills nearly every single rabbit. It follows him back to the burrows, where it tears apart every rabbit in the warren, and then it finds him in a bush, and as he cowers, it smacks him. Yeah, this is a typical theme of this program. And it blinds him and claws and damages his eye. Which is absolutely toshpot. So, because for that scene, you have this one where the Woundwort character is kind of saying to Clover, "Oh, you shall be my queen. And by the way, I was a hutch rabbit too." Well, surely they should have shown how he became a hutch rabbit after this so-called fox attack. So again, it was false because it had nothing to do with what happens in the book. It's stereotypical thinking. A fox in a hen house, yeah, they do get blood rage and they will just go mental in a hen house. In a chicken coop, there's lots of things squawking and fluttering, and it's just like red rag to a bull. When a fox is hunting a rabbit, 9 out of 10 times they don't catch the rabbit. They have to come from downwind, so the rabbits can't smell them, and then they've got to literally get within a couple of metres to catch the rabbit, because a lot of rabbits don't leave their they don't stray far from the burrow, because it's common sense. I mean, you don't go too far, otherwise if you've got to run, your enemy might catch you. And a fox will normally only take one rabbit. It won't suddenly go, "Way, nom 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 nom," and wipe out a whole warren. So that was bad labelling and mislabelling of a predatory animal's behaviour. I mean, it's almost like the hunt lobby did it. Kind of, "Oh, look how vicious foxes are. We must hunt them." That's how bad the whole thing felt. And the fact that they messed up, they could have had a really good backstory. Well, they could have done the actual backstory for General Woundwort, and they just paved over it. But why? Why put something so stupid as a fox wiping out a warren? It makes no sense. So that pretty much miffed me, and I was once again screaming at the TV. And like I say, I felt that the whole thing was over feminised. So you have Strawberry, male character, turned into a female character. Clover, Laurel, Boxwood, and hang on, Laurel, Boxwood, Haystack, were all shown as female when two of them were male. Then you've got this empowering thing between Clover and Heisenfly in Ephrafa. And by the way, Clover never even went near Ephrafa. She was the time that Bigwig entered Ephrafa, Clover was in a burrow, heavily pregnant with Holly's kittens. Yeah. So that was really infuriating. And then there was this scene of all this group of does that seemed to be the only rabbits in Ephrafa. This is once again where I think cheap animation, there was no care or context put into it. They all gang up on one of the officers and they were, was it, we will be free or some, hang on, bear with me, I've got to check this because it was so bad. It was bad. Where is it? Let's see. Oh, it's the other piece. Chapter 2. Also, what didn't make any sense was that it was actually originally made into 4 parts, but they showed it as 2, which made no sense. Right, where's this stupid scene of We Are Free? There it is. Right, hang on. I just want to hear what they say.
He's fine. Tell Holly I'll be with him when he closes his eyes.
Yeah, they all gather and chant "We shall be free."
We shall be free.
It makes no sense. It's not in the book. Why bother? Once again, it's that female empowerment message thing, which ruined. I think it's actually ruined the whole concept. And there was a scene in it where Bigwig was meant to execute Heisenfly. I was like, why? This whole program made me ask, why? Who made it? Where do they live? Because I want to smack them. Well, they're probably a lot bigger than me, so maybe laxatives in their coffee if I ever serve them coffee. But this whole female empowerment thing throughout the whole 4 episodes or 2 episodes, how many it was irritating beyond all measure. And with the very shoddy animation, the anatomical incorrectness, the cheapness of it, the lack of actual reference to the book or really anything to do with the book, it was just a major letdown. Loads and loads of people were expecting a darn good story, but maybe we were expecting such a good story because the bar was so high. A lot of people in the UK have read Watership now. We've even had to study it in English classes in school because it's got so much in it. I did a few books like this, and when you see the animation, the original animation, it is a very, very, very high bar. The quality, the cell paintings, everything about it is just breathtaking. Even the soundtrack, that rendition of Bright Eyes, stunning. And also the place, the way the music flows and matches the animation style. It was a beautifully constructed thing. This thing from the BBC, I wouldn't pay 50 pence in a bargain bin for it. And also, I don't quite understand why this Captain Orcus thing was continuously, multiple times referenced. he killed my brother. No, your brother wasn't even around when this took place, mate. It was almost like they tried to put a sideline in it, but it didn't work because it had no relation to it. It's just, I've never ever seen something so diabolical. Oh, and well, in the book, Hazel and Heisenflay get together, and she becomes like the chief doe. So she's in. So when Hazel's away, she is the one in charge, and she goes on to have other adventures in the second Watership Down book, which isn't as strong in any way. It's not as strong as the first, but then, like I say, a very high bar. But it's still nice. I think it's Tales from Watership Down. And she has her own adventures, and you get to learn a bit more about her history in Ephrafa, which is really good because it gives you some backstory. Now, she is Hazel's mate, and there's a psychic-y kind of rabbit in Ephrafa who becomes Fiver's mate, Verve something, and I don't think she gets featured at all in the BBC's adaptation, in all honesty. Strawberry, of course, is a male, so he ain't anybody's. But in the BBC's adaptation, where Strawberry is a female, she goes with Bigwig. And in the book, Clover is pretty much mostly with Holly, but rabbits in the wild go with anybody. Oh, and that was the other thing. The constant rabbits and sex theme between two of the characters. It was, again, embarrassing to watch. And it was quite pervy, in all honesty. Because two of the characters were vying for female Strawberry. And, of course, she went off with Bigwig. And then they see another doe and it's like, oh, hello, I saw her first, and all that. It's like, that's just... Rabbits are not sex mad. Just because they can breed pretty darn fast doesn't mean they're sex mad. It means they're pretty darn smart, because they know that the more rabbits there are, the less chance of them being eaten, because there's another rabbit over there. But also, it's passing on your genes successfully. The little rabbit here that I'm just drawing is a baby little kitten, as they're called, that I got to see when I was up in Portland. It was quite a way away from me, and now yesterday I was taking a mickey about the pose. This isn't actually the pose that the BBC were using. This is a mid-run pose, so this was like the back end of the rabbit as it ran. And it's only a quick sketch. The Ephrafa thing was just, oh god. But yeah, the second part was equally as diabolical as the first part. And in all honesty, I do not recommend it. I wouldn't give it the time of day. I'm sure there are a lot of animated studios and students who could have produced something a lot better quality in probably a very quick time. And I'd like it if you did. Because where's that really stupid piece? Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is just... And today, when I was at work, because I was doing a 6 till 5 shift, and we were, a couple of us were actually saying how bad this film was. And in the end, we both agreed that it should never have been produced. I mean, you don't produce something of this shockingly bad nature. I just need to fix this little face. Baby rabbits have much more stumpy faces than the adults, so their faces can be a little bit trickier to figure out. and that's where I love being able to sit and watch them. There's a warren on Portland where they live in the quarries, and the burrows that they have are inhabited by little owls and other creatures, which is really, really sweet. Because quite often when you're looking for the little owls, you've just got to find the rabbits. And once you start finding where the rabbits are, you can find out where the owls are. And this one was facing junk away, hence the odd angle. You need to just fit back. Oh, tails, that was it. All of the rabbits in the BBC's Watership Down had coloured tails. Not the overside, but the underside of the tail. So this part of the tail, instead of being the beautiful white that it should be, and I've had a look at a few domestic rabbits, they've still got white tails. I'm gonna pop down Pets at Home and ask to look at every rabbit's tail at this rate. Oh, can I just look under your rabbit's tail, please? Yeah, that's probably going to get me kicked out. It's almost like trying to look up dinosaur skirts. But yeah, all the BBC production, all of their ones had coloured back tails. And oh, that was the thing. At the beginning of the whole thing, the really bad shadow art piece mentioned wolves. Now, I shouldn't stretch like that. Right, watch it down. This is a newer copy. In fact, I don't actually think it says. I'll have to double check, but I don't even think it actually says. Oh, that was something. Right, the board with the housing estate on it, which Fiverr found and worked out meant bad things. In the BBC's adaptation, it's a picture of a housing estate. In the book, hang on, I've not got I can't see my camera. Right. In the book, this is the actual what the board says. So it says, this ideally situated estate comprising 6 acres of excellent building land is to be developed with high-class modern residence by Such and Martin Limited of Newbury, Berkshire. That's completely different to what they put on there. And also in the book, he mentions about the way the lettering is into the board and the depth and stuff. Also, the chief rabbit of the Sandalford Warren, I feel sorry for that voice actor. He literally had about, 3 lines? If that. And in the book, you've got at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages of the encounter. So, and it's a much more persuasive argument in the book. I mean, this is the real McCoy. This is what you got to read. I'm just trying to find out better. Because at the beginning, when they got this little silhouette thing, it says something really weird. It says about how Frith made all of the animals want to hunt and slay the rabbits. And there was a thing about who got what. So someone got sharp claws, someone got speed and things like that. I have to find that out later. But in the BBC's adaptation, they also include a wolf in there. I am 99.5% sure there was no mention of wolf in the book. So once again, I know they class it as an adaptation, but when you have original source material, surely you should be adapting it from the original source material, not from somebody who's clearly never seen a rabbit before, and probably never actually read the book before. So it's kind of, I say, it is the most cringe-worthy piece of stuff I have seen in a long time. And I can happily say that after sitting for, 3 hours of toddler TV while babysitting my nephew. 4 hours of those songs repeating, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder where you are," and all of that. The animation studios who do that sort of thing, Something in Dave, not Chaz and Dave. It's this kid's TV channel, Something in Dave. It's very basic animation, but it was actually better quality than the BBC's stuff. And I mean, look at what you've got. You've got this Christmas we got Zog coming up. It's done by the same author who wrote Room in a Broom, The Gruffalo's Child, and there's a dragony one, and there's another one, Highway Rat. And you got that beautiful, almost like Wallace and Gromit style, plasticine looking figurines. And that is beautiful. In fact, I get the feeling the BBC could have done better if they had actually done something like that. But I did notice something yesterday on the credits. It was the BBC in collaboration with Netflix. Now that could be the reason why the whole thing was just so shoddy. Or it may not be the reason it was so shoddy. But yeah, the ending was silly. Oh, and a female black rabbit of inlay. Yes, that was another scene that they cut. Right, so Hazel's laid by water, and in all honesty, I don't know where this river thing has come from, because up on a high hill with a beach hanger, there was not a pond. Trust me on that one. So Hazel's laid there. You don't really get an idea of time. They kind of goes winter, summer, flashing things, but it's not a great idea of time. And there's Hazel looking worn out, laid by a river thing, and everyone kind of comes over and says, "Oh, hi, you're looking tired. Remember to come in. It's getting cold," and all that. And then the black rabbit of inlay shows up. It dips down into the water, then goes back up, and there's the black rabbit with him. And she again, like I say, male character been turned female again. She offers him the chance to join the Owsler, and he accepts. And then she and Hazel on the bank, camera drops down again to the water, goes back up. There's nobody there. So, where did his body go? It also doesn't raise sort of the issue of what happened to General Woundwart's body. At least in the cartoon, they actually said General Woundwart's body was never found. The BBC just bing, change scene. So that was really, really annoying. Because you didn't have closure, and I don't know, you'd already it can't be because they didn't want to show a dead rabbit. Teletubbies had a dead rabbit on their set. Loads of kiddly-winkies saw that dead rabbit and knew it was a dead rabbit. Sorry, I always remember that episode. Oh look, what's that rabbit doing? It's dead. Oh great. So I don't know why they made the body vanish. And also in the book, Hazel is actually in his burrow when the black rabbit comes to him, and they walk off from the warren down the hill, and Hazel decides to leave his body by a ditch, and before his spirit runs over the hills following the black rabbit, which is a very nice soft ending. But yeah, the BBC didn't bother with that bit, so meh, I say meh. I mean, I dread to think how much they wasted on the whole thing. I mean, the designs were rubbish. The animation quality, rubbish. The storyline wasn't really one. Like I say, because there was these constant breaks in it, scene changes, drops of the camera, rises of the camera. There were bits that made no sense. There was very, very little to do with the book in the programme. It was a wasted time project. If you're not going to do it properly, don't do it at all. Don't ruin a classic. And for me, this is the only watership down. Well, apart from the video, DVD. I mean, the scene about Lucy when she finds Hazel and what she does after he's been attacked by the cat. That's a very poignant scene. That got whitewashed off. And I still can't get over the fact they ditched Pipkin. And actually, going back to the river scene that the BBC ditched and didn't bother to put in, that was a very, very important scene because characters died on that. And also, Kihar played a very pivotal role in getting the rabbits from the boat, well, the punt, to the shore. And he wasn't this selfish jerk that the BBC made him sound like. So that was really frustrating. But yeah, so that's my little mini rant. Do you know something? Tomorrow's Christmas Day. And as long as I don't have that version of the BBC's Watership Down in my stocking tomorrow, I will be a happy bunny. So I hope this has been a bit of a laugh and given you some food for thought. Like I say, I do think that there was far too much gender swapping in the programme. It was too much female empowering. The whole story of Watership Down is about a group of male rabbits finding their homes. Male, not female. Otherwise there wouldn't have been a journey. They just would have walked down the road with a couple of girls and set a new warren up. So... And also, a lot of stereotypical bad things in there. The fact that they put a Rottweiler on the farm. It is very rare you'll find a Rottweiler on a farm. You'll find collies, you'll find Labradors, you'll find Golden Retrievers, you'll find Terriers, for ratting, of course. But it is very rare you'll find a Rottie. Though they are, like I say, a herding dog. So that was putting a good dog in a bad light. Putting a fox as somebody who wiped out a warren because of Woundwart's mistake. Again, that's not a true thing. And people are going to be misconstruing what a fox can do. In fact, some foxes have been known to sit and dance in front of a rabbit, like a weasel on a stoat would, to confuse it before making a pounce. They have to think about it. Rabbits aren't easy to catch. So that was annoying. It's just, yeah, rubbish. So, yeah, if you're going to watch it with a pinch of salt and maybe make sure you haven't read the book because it will just be like, what? But, so in the meantime, I've done a few real rabbit sketches. So these are quick sketches based on real rabbits. So you've got a adult one there. Baby one there on the run, and a mid-range youngster there. So, and if you want to learn about rabbits, hares and other creatures, please check out your local wildlife groups. They can give you lots of information, and if you're lucky enough to get a camera and find wildlife that you can go and sit and watch and enjoy, do it, because you can learn so much just by sitting and watching. I'm hoping once the summer comes this March, I'm hoping to go and watch some hares. And that's going to be fun because I think I've got to be up about 6 o'clock in the morning. No, I've got to be at the site for about 6 o'clock in the morning so that I can be in the fields well before sunrise. And then as the sun comes up, should start to see the hares making a move. Hopefully, at least that's the plan, because the one thing I don't have a reference photo of is hares. Rabbits, plenty of reference photos. Hares, nada. And I work from my own photos. I don't use other people's. I like the story behind each of my photos. So, for instance, that was a baby rabbit on Portland making a run away from me. That was a rabbit in Loo Bay on a caravan site. They were quite happy for you to sit next to them while they were feeding on a hedge. And this was a rabbit from the Lodmore RSPB site. Again, not at all scared of people. You could literally walk past them. I mean, you could have actually picked up some of these rabbits. And so I've got my reference photos, and I've studied and looked at rabbits. I know roughly how their anatomy works. And if you're going to enjoy wildlife, try sketching it, like I do. I mean, I'll take a sketchbook out and I'll get gesture drawings of movements and things like that. It can be a really, really handy source. So till next time, thank you very much for putting up with me. And take care, have a lovely evening, and all the best.